This is a video that I'm very excited about and I've been very much looking forward to making, because in this video I'm finally gonna put the exterior of this old banger together so that I can bring the vision that's been going around my mind for ages now to life, and we can start to see what this thing is going to look like when it's finished and it's on the road. With the days now getting shorter and the weather getting colder, I think getting the exterior back together is going to give me a much needed boost, and let's face it, it's about time we got to see what this thing is ultimately going to look like. I've got a couple of bits that I've bought since the last video, which should help keep this all-weather car waterproof. I am, of course, talking about seals. So up here, I've got a front and rear windscreen rubber seal. I've gone for the RS type, which doesn't have the little insert in it. It's just a solid black seal. I think they look better, even though this isn't an RS. These are the seals that go on the doors between the glass and the door. These are obviously oversized and you have to cut them down. And I'm actually not sure whether I'm going to bother fitting the original windows, which would mean I'd need to cut these down to about here because you'd have the triangle window, or whether I'm just going to fit plastic windows straight away. And if I fit plastic windows, I'm not sure if I'm going to have the pillar. I might just have one piece. So I need to decide that before I cut these down. But yeah, I've got 4 brand new ones of those, and I've already fitted the brand new door seals. These are really cool because they actually have the molded corners in them. Some of the cheaper ones, they don't have that, and it doesn't really fit in this corner properly. But yeah, really happy with how these look. They literally look pretty much the same as the original ones, although you do have to cut them. Yeah, they're made sort of oversized and you have to cut them, but that was no drama whatsoever. So yeah, really happy with these. Oh, and I've got a brand new boot seal as well, which I've already fitted. So yeah, as I say, hopefully this thing won't leak in the rain like the old Mordor did. Now, I got all these rubber seals from a company called LHD Classic Car Parts, and they very kindly gave me a little bit of a discount, so I thought I'd give them a shout out on a video, and I will leave their links in the description. They do a whole load more seals than I bought, so yeah, definitely go and check them out. All right, so I've got a load of parts scattered on the floor here, some of which are in bubble wrap and, you know, they've been labelled and whatnot. But yeah, I've got parts for Heidi scattered everywhere. Got some in the spare room at home, got some in the garage at home, some in the shed at home. No doubt some bits I need to dig out of this garage and the other garage, and I'm sure there's going to be some bits that I notice I'm going to need to buy to yeah, get all this exterior bolted together. But I think at the end of this video I'm going to have a good idea of what is missing, and yeah, it's going to mean that all these parts that have been scattered about here, there and everywhere are going to be in one place, this place. So I'm going to crack on with this, and I'm not going to be doing it in any particular order really. I'd like to try and save the more crazy bits until the end, but I think I'm definitely going to make a start on the lights. So let's cue some music and crack on. I'm sure I've got some better condition backing bowls somewhere, but these have already been modified to take these aftermarket lights, but the front panel hasn't been drilled because these new sections welded in by the previous owner, and yeah, this car's never been on the road since. As it turns out, the front panel also needs to be butchered to make way for the rivets and the bolts that are used to hold the aftermarket lights into the bowls. Now that's done, I can drill the holes that I need to mount the bowls into the front panel, and then on goes the bolt-on slam panel, followed by these grill clips. It's time to get the grill itself fitted, which simply screws into place. There's still some blue paint that needs removing, but Heidi's face is coming together. Next to go on are the rusty but repainted front bumper irons, but the fiberglass quarter bumpers will have to wait until Amazon have delivered the hardware. Next on the agenda are some 2-man jobs. well, one woman, one man jobs. First we're going to fit and align the boot lid, and then in goes the boot lock, which has been tapped for a nut rather than the weak little clip. Heidi's rear end is now coming together, but there are plenty of crazy bits to come. Round the front, Kat is fitting the bonnet hinges, and then we can throw on the fiberglass bonnet. Oh wait, the hinges are on the wrong sides. For the record, that was my fault, but with it rectified, we can now fit and align the bonnet, which looks better than I thought it would. Right, let's get the smoked rear lights in. First I need to bare metal the area around the inner nuts for both rear lights for the earth connections. Now I'm going to get the driver's side rear light wired up and in position. I need to get around the fuel tank to put one of the nuts on, and the other one has this special washer which will lean against my bare metal to create an earth. I'm also going to add this wire to the same stud, which is the earth for my fuel pump, and now I'm going to install the passenger side rear light, which is way less hassle. On goes my satin black fuel cap, and next I'm going to focus on the door handles. I'm going to use this Kent Europe white grease to lube up all the latches as I go round, and I'm going to ensure that I fit the gaskets and the rods. I've got some freshly zinced hardware, and I'm going to fit these little clips that lock the rods in place. And it shuts just like a Golf. And after taking it apart and putting it back together a few times, I've got all the other rods hooked up so that the door locks correctly and it can be opened from the inside. And with the process repeated 3 times, I'm not going to fit these wing mirrors because I'm going to fit these aftermarket ones. Unfortunately, this is going to mean I'm going to need to drill an extra hole in each door, but I love a bit of butchery. I've only got one plate for the inside, so I'm going to use that on the driver's side, and I'll just make one up for the passenger side. With the holes drilled, I'm going to use some Kent Europe gloss black to give it the quickest paint job I've ever done. And whilst that's drying, I'm going to crack on with the driver's side. I've got some fresh bolts and I even made up a gasket. In goes the plate, on goes the nuts, and it's job done. And with the other plate dried, it's on with the passenger side mirror. Amazon have delivered the hardware for my front quarter bumpers, which I've already installed the indicators into. I'm still waiting for the spacers though. These fibre washers should protect the fiberglass from cracking, and I'm going to use Nylox so that I don't need to do the nuts up super tight. Next to go on is Heidi's front spoiler, which I've decided to paint satin black. I think it makes a change from most cars out there that have got them body colour. Heidi will be getting a fiberglass rear bumper, but for now I'm going to fit this twisted up metal one. So it's on with the brackets first and then on with the bumper itself. I'm going to make some carbon sepal vents, but for now I'm going to throw these original ones on with some double-sided tape. The official MH 2026 calendars are now available on my website at marcushayesuk.com, packed full of pictures of classic Fords owned by some of you guys. They'll look awesome in anyone's home, workplace or garage, and with Christmas just round the corner, they'll make a great gift for any of your petrol head friends or family members. Massive thanks to everyone who sent in pictures of your classic Fords to be in the calendar. Everyone whose cars made it into the calendar have been sent an exclusive discount code, so check your email inbox before you order your calendars. That discount code is also available on my Patreon, and to anyone ordering the calendars, if you order now, you're going to get free UK shipping as well. So use the link in the description or head over to marcushayesuk.com now to grab your calendars, and while you're over there, check out all the other MH merch that we've got as well. And a massive thanks in advance to any of you that do decide to grab some bits. Now, in terms of this year's calendar features, we need to go back to give a mention to Nick's Duratec powered RSR Mk2 Escort. Now, you could say that Nick's Escort is a bit of a wild card because it's not technically a classic Ford. It is, of course, an RSR space-framed race car with their fiberglass Mk2 Escort body shell. I personally think it's awesome that there are various companies producing these modern versions of cars that resemble Escorts, but I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't really into those sort of things because they're not a proper Escort. But in my opinion, all these different versions of Escorts that are available nowadays just means that old school Escorts are never going to die. As technology moves forward in the world, there's still brand new cars being built that are far superior to old Escorts in terms of their technology and stuff, that still resemble that old timeless Mark 1 Escort shape. So I think they're awesome, but it is a bit of a wild card in the calendar, you could say. And there's actually a couple of wild cards in next year's calendar as well. Anyway, this RSR Escort that belongs to Nick is just one of a fleet of cars in the Ovenden Motorsport fleet. Now, the Ovenden Group is based in Canterbury, and it's actually a business that's got 50 years experience in haulage, plant hire, and aggregate supply, and that sort of thing. But they have their motorsport side to the business, you could say, I guess, to just advertise their business. And yeah, they have a fleet of cars that are all competing in different race series. Go and give them a follow so you can keep up to date with everything they do at Ovenden Motorsport. But with regards to this Ovenden Motorsport RSR Mark 1 Escort, I actually saw it in the flesh at the OSO Retro Show in 2023, and I actually used that car as the thumbnail for the video that I made at that event. So for this calendar feature, I'm going to do things a bit different, and I'm just going to play the clip that I filmed at the OSO Retro Show in 2023 when I got a chance to look up close at this RSR Mark 1. Is one that definitely falls into the crazy category. Check this thing out. Fully space framed, fiberglass shelled Mark 1 Escort. Absolutely loving the crazy front splitter on the front. It's all badged up as a scale extra car. Really cool. But yeah, check this out. Duratec lump in the bay, 2.5. Running on throttle bodies. Loving the Edwards stainless manifold. But yeah, as I say, proper space frame chassis. The engine's set really far back. And just check out the cockpit. Properly extensive roll cage. Love this thing. Sequential box, digital screen, floor mounted pedals. Yeah, this thing is proper nuts. Proper wingback bucket seat. This thing actually competes in the modified Ford series. They actually won at Brands Hatch last weekend. That was the round that was taking place at the Ford Power Live show, which we didn't attend. But yeah, this thing is absolutely nuts. Proper wild machine. Love the huge wing on the back. And yeah, we will have a look in the boot. Just space frame tubing everywhere. Love how the exhaust sort of comes up and then comes out of the rear panel. You can see all the suspension and the wheel. But yeah, proper weapon. And yeah, quite gutted that we didn't get to see this thing in action at Ford Power Live recently. Now, I want to thank Nick and the rest of the Ovenden Motorsport team for sending in the RSR Mark 1 to be in the 2025 calendar. But with that, it's back to bolting my old banger Ford Escort together round the garage. All right, so I've now got all the not so crazy bits that I was planning to fit in this video now fitted to the car, and I'm loving how this thing is coming together. I'm sure some of these bits would be considered crazy by a lot of people, for example, these wing mirrors, but I reckon once I get the actual crazy bits fitted, these are going to tie in really nicely. I'm also guessing that maybe not everyone is a fan of the smoked rear lights. These were, of course, fitted to my old Mordor, but to be honest, the more satin black bits that I fit to this car, the more I'm loving the beige and black colour combo. Some of these bits that I've fitted have been really time consuming, especially the door handles, getting all the mechanisms working and stuff took absolutely ages. But with everything in this video, I've been trying to resist the urge to fully finalise everything. You know, the idea of this video is not to finish this car, you know, far from it. It's just to get a vision of the final look. And yeah, a lot of these parts will be removed and refitted again before this thing is on the road. A lot of these parts have actually had a lot of work done behind the scenes. For instance, these wing mirrors were gloss black when I bought them from my good friend Lee Booth, but I decided to do them satin black to match everything else. And yeah, some of those bits that I've been doing behind the scenes, you guys that are my patrons would have seen the videos that I put up on there. One example of that was the work I did on one of these headlights. This headlight had a bit of a mark on the outside that looked like something had been spilt on it, but I wasn't able to clean it from the outside, and I assumed that maybe something had leaked inside. So I carefully used heat to remove this plastic lens from the headlight. And, you know, whilst I was doing that, I realised that the mark was on the outside, but it had actually eaten into the plastic. Whatever it was obviously corrosive, but I was able to flat and polish the lens back up. So, yeah, it saved this pair of headlights. I've just noticed that this headlight is crooked though, so I need to sort that out at some point. But I do also need to replace the O-ring in between the carbon ring and the lens. Yeah, it needs an O-ring in there just to make everything tight so that it doesn't rattle around. I lost that O-ring when I took this one apart, and in there at the moment is 3 O-rings that I opened out. So you got sort of 1, 2, 3, and yeah, I don't like the look of it. You can just see it poking out there. So yeah, that's an example of something I've done behind the scenes, and an example of something that I need to revisit. And there's loads of that around the car. Obviously, as I've already mentioned, still need to add the spacers for the bumpers, but I'm not 100% happy with how these bumpers are aligned, so I need to mess around with things like that. This front spoiler, which I've decided to do satin black to tie in with all the other satin black parts, won't be attached with these screws long term. I'm going to put riv nuts in the body and put some fancy nuts in there. But yeah, in general, there's a ton of stuff that is going to need to be revisited. But all that being said, I'm so glad that I decided to put the thing together in this video so we can get a vision of the final product. Now over here, I've got a few of the more crazy bits that I want to fit in this video. This diffuser is another thing that I've been working on quite a lot behind the scenes. Another thing that I've shown some of that to the patrons. This was actually made up of 2 really cheap universal diffusers. And yeah, I was originally just going to have it coming up to here, but then decided to use the second one to extend things. You know, I've attached all the bits together. I've got my brackets and stuff holding it together so that it's more solid. And yeah, that's going to look pretty ridiculous hanging out the back of Heidi. So can't wait to get that fitted. I was hoping to get this section here looking a bit smoother because that's going to poke out of the rear panel slightly. But where these joins are, I just wasn't able to make it look as smooth as I would like because there's a bit of flexibility in this. Any filler inevitably cracks. I've resorted to using sealer, but you know, obviously that doesn't hide the seams whatsoever. So we'll just see if that's going to annoy me. Hopefully it'll look all right. If not, maybe I'll have to look at putting a single piece of ABS plastic along here just so that it's nice and smooth, the bit that pokes out. But yeah, another thing I've done since I showed the patrons is re-drill some of these mounting holes. And also on the car, although I did show the patrons that I'd put the riv nuts in the boot floor, I've actually added a couple on the edges here in the chassis so that yeah, we can get the diffuser nicely mounted in this video. And yeah, I'm just hoping that with the bumper there, that's going to mean that the bit I'm not happy with isn't going to be seen, but you will still be able to see the sort of fins hanging down. Onto probably the most crazy bit of this whole build, the BGW massive rear wing. This was actually the second wing that was fitted to the car when it was in primer. Well, it's a version of that wing. That wing was actually sent to me by a subscriber called Ian. Massive shout to you. And he decided to send me that wing because he'd upgraded to an RSR one. Ironically, seeing as we featured an RSR Escort from the calendar in this video. But yeah, the wing that Ian sent me was the same as this, but it ended around here. And I sent that wing to my good friend Gary Ball, who extended it and then took a mold from it, and he's created this bigger version for me out of fiberglass with proper carbon fiber end pieces. So if you want a wing like this, Gary has of course still got the mold, so get in touch with him. I'll leave his links in the description of this video. And then onto the arches, which I've changed my mind about slightly. Now these are the front arches that I'd bought for the car, and this is one of the rear arches, which is slightly wider, which I was planning to run, but I've actually decided to run the smaller ones all round. I've actually bought another set of these arches. So I've got another 2 of these that I can use for the rear. Those ones aren't cut. These ones have actually been cut and finalised to fit on the front of the car. I've actually shaved a little bit off the lip there as well, just so that we can get a tighter fitment with the wheels when the time comes. These will obviously need to be painted satin black because these are going to look a bit too grey against some of the other satin black parts. But in this video, we're obviously going to chuck these on the car so that we can get an idea of the final look of the car. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to fit the arches to the driver's side, just so we can have a look at what it looks like on one side. So yeah, I'll fit these 2 arches to the driver's side, although long term these will be the front arches, and I need to cut the other ones down that I bought, which are the same size as these, to go on the rear of the car. My beautiful girlfriend has very kindly come round here in the cold yet again today to help me get some of these crazy parts fitted. I've also got a couple of bits that I'm going to fit to the engine, which I'm really excited to see fitted, and I'm also going to fit what is going to be the cherry on top for this build, because I've bought Heidi some new wheels. Let's start with the arches. I'm going to screw the rear one into place and Kat's going to work on the front one. Next, I'm going to install the rear diffuser, which looks perfectly ridiculous hanging out at the back. And now we can crack on with fitting probably the most controversial part of this whole build, the BGW. I need to do some more thinking about how I'm actually going to mount this thing to the brackets, but for now we can mock it up just to get a vision. I'm going to reserve judgment until we've got the wheels on, but first I'm going to give the ST170 a bit of a makeover with a gloss black rocker cover and some beige plastic covers. Now that looks a million times better. So let's get these wheels on. Boom. A cheeky set of 3-piece split rims from Force Racing. This car was always going to need some quite special rims, and I reckon these are going to do the job nicely. I've finally come across these parts, which I've been struggling to find in my garage. One rear light protector needs a little bit of a repair, but for now I'll drill the holes and get them screwed in place. And then it's on with the boot springs. So that's Heidi's rear end now looking pretty much complete. And with the car in general, we can really get a sense of how this thing's going to look when it's finished, which was the whole point of this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't hold back. Cue the haters. All right, so the weather's not great today, but this video is so overdue. So yeah, just need to crack on. I hope you can hear me over the noise of the wind. Anyway, this thing is of course far from finished, but I can confidently say that my vision has now somewhat been brought to life. There's a ton of bits that I'm going to need to revisit, and I've identified a few more bits that I'm going to need to revisit after doing what I've been doing in this video, which means that this sort of mock-up has been even more worthwhile than just giving me a bit of a boost. Anyway, before it starts raining again, let's have a closer look at some of these bits, and I'm going to start with the rims. These are of course Force Racing 3-piece split rims, 8J fronts, 13-inch of course, but 8J fronts and 9J rear. And to be honest, when I first saw these on eBay, I weren't really sure about them, but my friend slash boss slash Patreon, George, persuaded me to pull the trigger, and yeah, I'm really happy with them now. They're certainly unique. I've never seen them before, and they make a change from the usual mini lights and revolutions that people fit to these cars. Now, they actually came off of an arched Mk2 Escort, which made me think that the specs should be at least somewhat correct for this arched Mk2. And when you look at the front and the rear now, the fitment isn't too bad. The fronts are almost perfect, and in fact, when I fit the front legs that I'm going to be fitting to this car, the fronts will be pushed out slightly more, so they might actually be bang on. But the rears, although they look pretty good in that arch at the moment, I've actually got 25mm worth of spacers to push this wheel out. So yeah, the rear ones aren't pokey enough, but the only reason I can think that these were suitable for a Mark 1 that was arched and are not suitable for this car is maybe that Mark 1 had like a full length Atlas axle. Anyway, with these being split rims, I could of course just fit a wider outer rim to them at some point to make them perfect, but for now I'm just going to run them with spacers. These wheels, you know, they have had a few knocks. I think this one I've actually banged out one of the kinks as best as I can. Still needs a bit more work, to be honest. But again, you know, if I wanted to later on, I could change the outer dishes on them, make them the perfect spec, and then, you know, all these marks will obviously be deleted. And if and when I do that, I may see about changing the colour of the centres or just getting them re-anodised black. But for now, I'm happy with them being black. I'm happy to run spacers on the rear. And yeah, I think they're a pretty cool set of rims for this car. Do let me know what you think of them in the comments. The arches are something that I'm still doing a lot of head scratching about, and that's why I haven't yet painted these arches satin black. But yeah, basically when I had the larger arches fitted to the rear of this car when it was in primer, and I tried to sort of force the arch down to meet the sill here, it ended up putting major kinks in the arch, and that's why I basically decided to cut the arches off here. Obviously this, as I say, is a passenger side front, but if we look at the front, although the front of the arch I've sort of got slotted into the front spoiler like that, I'd basically decided to cut this off here because of, as I say, when I sort of tried to force them down before, they ended up putting big kinks in them. But when my friend John was around here yesterday and we sort of pushed this down to here, it actually doesn't kink too much at all. Now, that might just be that because this is the smaller arch, whereas before I had the bigger arch on, but it also might be something to do with the fact that I've actually shaved some away of the lip in here, which obviously makes it a little bit weaker, and maybe that's why I'm sort of able to manipulate this in like that. So I need to have a mess around, see if I can fit one of the uncut arches to the rear, and see if I'm able to pull this bit into here and pull the front bit into here, because if I can, then yeah, it's just going to mean that all this roughness isn't showing. The other options are that you can get like bits of trim that I could fit here. My thoughts for the back of the arch, although on the front wings this hasn't been cut so it doesn't look quite as rough, but yeah, my sort of thoughts for the back, if I was going to cut this off, is that I might just have rally style mud flaps, and I have actually bought a set of mud flaps and started cutting them to suit the car. So that was one of my ideas, but now I'm thinking that maybe I'll have another go at, you know, getting these arches to fully meet. Admittedly, there's probably not enough metal there for it to quite work, so I might have to add a bit of metal to make that work. So it might end up being a bit of a palaver, but yeah, until I figure all that out, I'm not going to paint these arches and yeah, finalise them. And it's kind of the problem with this car, because I've been telling myself, you know, it doesn't matter, it's just going to be a missile, you know, it's going to get abused. You know, things like what I just described with the arches, you know, with it showing the roughness, you know, that shouldn't matter. But this thing is turning out to be at least semi-smart. So now I'm sort of willing to potentially, you know, go back on a few things and maybe make things look a little bit less rough around the edges. But yeah, we'll see. Now, onto the diffuser, and I'm very happy that what I was worried about on the top of this bit where it sticks out isn't going to be an issue. You know, the bumper takes your eye off it enough. So yeah, I'm happy with that. But I definitely need to do a bit more work enlarging the mounting holes and stuff, just so that I can get it in the perfect position. And a problem with that is that a couple of the mounting holes are actually really close to one of the fins. So obviously moving this diffuser over to the left more, which is where I think it needs to go, is going to be potentially impossible, because yeah, that hole is right next to that rib. So that might take yeah, some head scratching. I might end up having to cut a little I don't know, cut a little bit out of the rib. I don't know, whatever I need to do. It won't be seen from out here, of course, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, this diffuser, I've spent so much time on it, way more than I wanted to, and yeah, it still needs a little bit of head scratching, as I say. And I'm also going to add a couple of fixings. Yeah, one to hold that bit up, and then similarly over here, and probably put it, you know, quite far back, yeah, just to hold those bits up, because this is a bit flexible. So yeah, I think that will definitely benefit it. I've got something that I've bought from Amazon that I'm going to mount here. Let me know in the comments if you can guess what that is. But yeah, the diffuser is just another silly bit hanging out the back, and yeah, it serves its purpose well, I think. All right, let's talk about everyone's favourite part of this build, this ridiculous rear wing. As you can see, it's not properly mounted. I still need to decide on the angle of it, and yeah, it basically needs to be tilted further forward than this adjustment will allow, and that's just because the angle of a Mark II boot lid means that, yeah, inevitably the wing's going to be tilted too far back. My thoughts were to just drill another hole halfway down these brackets, which would allow it to sit like that, but I'm actually thinking I might rethink this completely. Before I get onto that, actually, let me tell you what I was considering to do with this wing, and that is to actually mount it to the inside of the rear quarter there, you know, in the boot shut. So you'd have the brackets coming here, much like the RSR rear wing. Now, obviously that would mean that I'd need to add some riv nuts into the wing here, which isn't a problem, but I don't think I can do that because of the shape. You know, it's shaped to go up like this, to have the brackets there. So maybe it would look a bit silly if you had the brackets here with this not being fully straight. So yeah, not sure about that. Definitely not going to be doing it at the moment, because I'm not looking to fill the holes in the boot lid and repaint it. But yeah, I was kind of considering maybe mounting it here if and when I decide to get a carbon or a fiberglass boot lid. But I could, of course, in future, just fit an RSR rear wing and then have it mounted like that. But yeah, we'll see. But I think more short term, maybe I might end up maybe getting these brackets cut at the correct angle, so that then we can just mount these bits here to the bracket without all these bits. So that might be the answer. Obviously I need to work out the exact angle and then give these to someone who can sort of mill them flat. But yeah, that's one of the ideas that are going through my mind at the moment. But for now, I just wanted to get a sense of how this thing's going to look. At certain angles, it does just look ridiculous. I kind of think that maybe it's hanging out slightly too far back, but you know, my ideas with a bracket would obviously mean that it sits a bit lower. But in my honest opinion, from here, with the arches and stuff, you know, seeing that hanging out there, I think looks pretty cool. And it's certainly crazy, and it's certainly unique, which is the whole point of this build. But I know it's not for everyone, but look, you know, fitting an RS style boot lid spoiler like I had on my old Mordor, or fitting, you know, something else is always an option. You know, this is just a bolt-on part. I just wanted to try something a bit crazy. I can always change my mind later on. But yeah, let's at least get this thing to some drift days and maybe crash the rear wing into some walls and then see about switching it up. Anyway, elsewhere on the rear end, loving the carbon light protectors, loving the boot springs. They're obviously bits that were fitted to Maud, you know, to give it that sort of Mark II Escort rally look. Yeah, just little add-on bits. Loving the freshly painted black fuel cap as well. And yeah, as I've said already in this video, I'm just loving how the black and the beige look together. I was always worried with this car that the fact that it was beige was going to make it look a bit silly because it's a crazy car in a not crazy colour. But I honestly think that that's not an issue, you know. It's fine. Like, yeah, I really love the satin black and beige colour combo. So yeah, really glad that I stuck with the Cordoba beige. Now into the engine bay, we've of course got the beige covers fitted now. This is very similar to what I've got on my Mark I Escort, you know, with the body colour plastic covers and the black rocker cover. In fact, this rocker cover was fitted to my Mark I, and I decided to get another one powder coated because this one, the powder coat started cracking. Maybe I'll get another one made for this car as well, but for now, I just wanted to continue that black and beige theme into the engine bay. Admittedly, these mint covers are now making some of this other stuff look even worse because I purposely didn't tart this engine up much at all. So yeah, there is that. But in general, from a distance, I think the engine bay looks pretty smart. Of course, this will be getting an MH decal on there at some point. But yeah, for what is essentially going to be an abused drift missile. What a tidy engine bay. So as I say, there is a ton of stuff that I'm going to need to revisit on this car, and now that I've made this video and mocked everything up, and I and you guys have seen, you know, my vision come to life, it means that I can, you know, start removing bits individually and working things out without sort of thinking to myself, no, wait for the final assembly, because yeah, I kind of wanted to do all this in one video. Yeah, there still will be the final assembly at some point in the future, but yeah, now I can sort of at my own leisure go through and rework all these bits, and yeah, it will start coming together. I've already started doing a bit of the head scratching that I need to with some of these bits, and the next major thing I want to do, certainly in terms of showing you guys on YouTube, is to get my interior done, because I've got a really cool idea for this interior. I've got one of the brand new seats in here, which you can't see, it's covered. The patrons have already seen what's going on here, but yeah, I'm going to have a pretty cool kind of matching interior, which has been inspired by, let's say, not the classic Ford scene. But yeah, before I dive into that, I know I need to take the heater out, because I need to readdress what's going on with these heater pipes. This is all plumbed in and it doesn't leak, but I'm not happy with the way I did this, so I definitely need to revisit that. Right, I want to show you something that I'm not currently happy about. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm happy with how this front end is coming along. Really glad that I did the beige on the grille. Really glad that I decided to keep the front splitter black. But if we look here, this front splitter just isn't aggressive enough for, you know, an arched car, right? The front spoiler stops here, and then the arch just pokes out the side. And yeah, I don't like how that looks. However, I've bought some bits that I think are going to make this area look a whole lot better. And in fact, I had a massive parcel through the post yesterday, which is going to add a whole load more aggression to this front end. So yeah, this is definitely to be continued, because yeah, although I've had this vision in my mind for months and months, maybe a year, this thing is still evolving up here, and will continue to evolve in real life. So yeah, stay tuned for all that. But yeah, other than that, be honest and let me know what you reckon in the comments of how this thing's coming together. But yeah, with that, I do need to end this video here. As always, massive thanks to everyone who has tuned in. Give the video a thumbs up if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel for regular content. Don't forget to go and grab your official 2026 MH calendars while you still can. Huge thanks to everyone who has already grabbed one following the posts that I put on my social media. And of course, with Christmas just around the corner, check out all the other merch that I've got on my website as well. As always, I'll leave all my links in the description, along with my email address for anyone who wants to contact me. Got to send a huge thanks to my patrons for your ongoing support. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.